Hi, I'm Livy Halley.
And I'm Ben Schmidt. Welcome to the EU Update.
On September 12th, European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker delivered his final State of the European Union address. In it, he discussed many major issues facing the EU. On immigration, Juncker said that, quote, Europe must remain a tolerant and open continent. Europe will never become a fortress, turning its back on the world, which is suffering. He called for a new border force of 10,000 operational staff in order to protect borders, respond to future challenges, and protect free movement within the Schengen area.
Juncker also proposed a new Africa-Europe alliance for sustainable investment and jobs, which aims to, quote, boost investment, further attract private investors, support education and skills development for employability, as well as boost trade and improve the business climate.
Perhaps the most concrete policy proposal of the speech was Juncker's plan for an end to seasonal clock changes. He believes it is unnecessary and member states should decide what works for their citizens. By April 2019, countries will decide if they want to be on summer or winter time. Originally implemented to save energy post-World War I and II, many people find it to be irrelevant in today's technologically advanced society. In the words of Juncker himself, clock changes must stop. We are out of time.
He also briefly touched on Brexit, stating that the EU supports the decision, but Britain must understand that it can no longer enjoy the privileges of EU membership. In light of this, he frequently emphasized more European solidarity and unity. In other Brexit news, London's Labour Party Mayor Sadiq Khan has called for another EU referendum. Khan critiques Theresa May's government's handling of Britain's removal from the Union, stating that, quote, the government's abject failure means that giving people a fresh say is now the right and only approach left for this country. This call for a second vote comes days before the Labour Party's annual conference, where party leader Jeremy Corbyn has already been facing internal pressure to push harder on the Brexit issue.
The European Parliament voted on Wednesday, September 12th, to enact Article 7 of the Lisbon Treaty against Hungary. Article 7, which comes from the constitutional basis of the European Union, has only been triggered once before against Poland.
In the case of Poland, Article 7 was enacted due to questioning of the nation's judicial independence. Poland was accused of forcing judges to retire by passing a new law changing the retirement age to 65 and stacking the courts with judges who will be, quote, subservient to politicians, according to the New York Times.
The European Parliament enacted Article 7 against Hungary due to concerns that Hungary is veering towards becoming out of line with the European Union standards of democracy. Politico's Maya de la Baum and Ryan Heath claim that Hungary faces concerns about, quote, judicial independence, corruption, freedom of expression, academic freedom, the rights of minorities and migrants, and other issues.
The BBC reports that calls to remove Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban are due to, quote, a hardline stance against immigration. Orban introduced a law which made it a criminal offense for lawyers and activists to help asylum seekers under the banner of facilitating illegal immigration. The European Parliament additionally states that it was concerned about the constitutional and electoral system, privacy and data protection, freedom of expression and religion, academic freedom, freedom of association, and equal rights, particularly for refugees and minorities such as Roma and Jews. This video helps explain the procedure of Article 7.
Article 7 can be triggered by the European Commission only in a case of a persistent and serious breach of the rule of law. It's the most radical form of sanctions within the European Union.
Every EU country must uphold basic values, including freedom, human dignity, and the rule of law. Breaches can incur real punishment. But imposing sanctions is no simple process.
Every single member state has to give the approval. The European Commission needs the unanimity of the member states in order to trigger Article 7. The sanctions can be tough. They can include the suspension of voting rights.
But if even one EU country is against imposing sanctions, then Article 7 amounts to nothing more than empty posturing.
Because Article 7 was enacted against Poland last December and no progress has been made, Many political analysts doubt major action, such as stripping Hungary of its right to vote in the European Council, will ever be taken.
On September 12th, the European Union's Parliament voted to approve copyright reforms that have been in the works for 2 years. The goal of these reforms are to give extra protection to makers of internet content and allow them to be paid easier for their creations. However, the reforms do not come without massive criticism. The reform comes in 2 parts, Articles 11 and 13.
Article 11, also known as the link tax, allows for creators to ask for payment when online commercial sources share their content. There is some uncertainty, however, on what constitutes a commercial source and who would have to pay.
Article 13, dubbed the upload filter by its opponents, states that sites that, quote, store and give access to large amounts of works uploaded by their users may be liable for copyright infringement done by their users. This means that sites such as Facebook and YouTube would have to scan all incoming content uploaded by their users to search for copyright infringement.
Many critics also claim that this means an end to memes in the European Union.
The Verge posits that the reforms will take many years to actually take effect, stating that, quote, the bad news is that the fight over Europe's internet is far from over. That's the good news too. And that's all the news.